Hello, it's Prudence in the Drunken Kitchen, and I'm here to cook some different foods for you again today. I'm going to be making two different things. One of them is my homemade salsa that was actually in one of my other videos, and then the second thing I'm going to be making is a spinach crustless quiche. So, here, work, it's always there. Anyhow, I tried to work really hard today to get my hair away from my face so I won't touch it, and I did a lot of my mise en place ahead of time so you guys didn't have to pain through me doing every little single step. So the first thing that I'm going to do is my homemade salsa, and I actually roast my peppers. I'll show you over here in this pot right here. I roast my peppers and do my best to try to peel them. I don't ever get them 100% peeled. They're mostly peeled. I have a hard time with peppers. I get chemical burns, so I normally have to wear gloves, and I didn't have regular gloves today, so I wore my hair dye gloves that I use to dye my hair, which I haven't dyed my hair in a while now, so I haven't had a need to use these, but they look like an O.J. Simpson glove maybe? No, just kidding. Anyhow, so I had to have those on to get the peels off because I do end up with really bad chemical burns from the heat and the capsaicins or whatever it's called that's inside the peppers. Anyhow, so I make my salsa in a food processor. Oh, see, there's dirty dishes. Just ignore those. And then the eggs and stuff for my quiche. So I make it in a food processor, so it's going to be kind of loud. The one thing about salsa that's different than pico de gallo is that you end up cooking your salsa after you get it all blended up. I don't know, maybe not everybody cooks theirs. I cook mine. It just makes everything blend together and taste well together. And so I put about a half an onion in the bottom of my processor. I like it kind of oniony. So half an onion. Mine's a yellow onion. Maybe I'll put a little bit more. And then I like to get vine ripe tomatoes and stick those in there. And make sure you peel the little paper off. That should be a given, but sometimes even I don't see them, and I end up with a piece of paper on my salsa later, and I'm like, whoops, that happened. Didn't pay attention. So get all the big stuff in here. The onions. The tomatoes. This really wasn't mise en place. I'm just cutting them in half. I did the stuff that was tedious ahead of time. And let me see if I can get the last two in there. I know I've been trying to avoid tomatoes because they're supposed to be inflammatory, but the spinach quiche that I make, it tastes best if you put salsa on top of the quiche, and it's crustless, so it's just basically the eggs and cheese, and then you put that salsa on top. It makes it taste fantastic. So I'm going to bump this real quick and get those broken down, and it's going to be loud. I'll try to put it on low so it's not horribly loud. Okay, so it's about halfway down now. Now in my salsa, some of the other things that I put in there, which is not typical for people, is I put tomato paste in mine. It helps the flavor. It makes it the sauce taste a little better when you actually get it cooked. And I put probably about a third of this tube. And this tube I got, it's imported. It's triple concentrate, imported from Italy. And it's yeah, it's not that Hebe brand where I shop all the time. Anyhow, so that, I put it in there, and one of the other things, I have to think now, because my salsa recipe I make from my head, one of the other things that I like to put in there is cumin, or cumin, I don't know how it's pronounced, about a half a teaspoon of cumin, and I'll measure, maybe it's more like a teaspoon of cumin. Put that in there, cumin. And the other thing that you need to put in there, and I know this is not a container, but it's sugar. The reason you put sugar in there is because the tomatoes are kind of sweet, and when you try to balance a sweet in your foods, you don't balance it. I mean, you can balance it by putting salt in there, but the sugar needs to be in there with the tomatoes while the tomatoes are cooking. This is one of those weird little secrets you learn about, and it works really well. And then I'm going to put sea salt in there also. Maybe a teaspoon or two. I'm trying to measure. Usually I just dump it in from sight. It never tastes the same. And then this is the other little secret to great tasting salsa is, and I don't have it in the container. It should be in the container, but I bought it at, yes, the He. I like to buy my herbs in the bulk food section because, well, this one I ended up having to buy this much because I had no choice. They didn't have any loose. You can buy as little or as much as you want, and that way you have fresher herbs. You don't buy like this much if you're only going to use like 1/8 of a teaspoon, and then you'll have it for the next 20 years, and then the herb won't taste good anymore. So it's oregano, and putting oregano in your salsa, you only need like 1/2 teaspoon or so. Let me see if I can get it in my container since I just bought it. It actually brings out a nice earthy flavor. Put 1/2 teaspoon in there in your salsa. My measures are kind of heaping, in case you didn't notice. I don't know if you can see. So I have, this is all my salsa recipe, and the last thing I need to get in there is the peppers, and my pan may still be hot. I have to grab them out with tongs because I can't touch them now. Stick them in there. Oh, and the peppers that I put in here are 4 large poblanos. I think the poblanos give it a great flavor. There are 4 habaneros and 1 jalapeno. And so it's going to be spicy. My salsa gets kind of hot. And here's the last ingredient is my cilantro. And I usually pluck it off the stems and I get just the tops. So this is my mise en place. I didn't want you to watch me pluck this whole bowl full of cilantro. So I'll stick that in there and I'll whirl it around, blend it down till it's, we don't really like ours chunky. We like it kind of with, you know, some texture, but not big chunks. And so I blend it up for a little bit longer than some people like their salsas. Some people like it really thick. It's going to be thick, it's just not going to be chunky thick. So let me get that in there, and it's going to make this big loud noise again. Sorry about that. Walked by. I warned them that I'd be filming. Some of my cilantro didn't get chopped down. There he goes. That's pretty good. Touched a little bit of the sauce and it's already burning my finger. I tell my kids I'm such a delicate flower, so I have it all in here like this, and I'm going to transfer it to a saucepan. Try not to lose the cutting device in there. And I'll put it on the stove on a really low simmer and let it cook down. I'll let it cook for as long as it, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour, I don't care how long. And then sometimes I jar it up like I did my last one. I showed you before, I'll show you again. I knew I was not going to be prepared for something. I jar it up And then, because I used to just leave it in a big pot and it'd sit in the refrigerator forever and it would get hotter and then nobody would eat it, and then I'd end up throwing it away. And so now I actually can them and put them in jars, and then I could leave them in the pantry until we want to use one, open it, and then so it's portions it out a little better. So yeah, there it is. It's in the pot now. It's gonna cook down, the pot right there. Cook that down for 30 minutes to an hour while I'm prepping the crustless spinach quiche. I'll start another video for that one, but before I leave this video, this is the Drunken Kitchen with Prudence, and see you in the next film.